Every Sunday, I will draft my week. Every day, I have few things that are non-negotiable though, and it's my training. It's non-negotiable. I think I'm the kind of guy who likes to be busy. I love training. I love playing football. I love being active in general. Like, it's the main part of my life. I need something to take my mind off football sometimes, else it gets too tunnel visioned. At that time, all I could really comprehend was football. Why are we trying so hard to have fun here? And you meet Monday and still people will talk, oh, we had so much fun. And it's just like, did we? I slowly just got new people in my life who were much more aligned with a direction I could see myself going also. So yeah, recently I embarked on this new venture.
Do us a quick favor, guys. Hit the follow, subscribe button. Share this with someone who would benefit from it. And help us grow, as the more we grow, the better the episodes we get. Thanks, guys, for helping us. And let's get into the episode. Welcome back to this episode of the SCULPTED Podcast. Today, we are joined by guest Sebastian Avanzini, which is an absolute honor for us. It's a really exciting episode today. Sebastian and I got to know each other on LinkedIn, and it's going to be a very exciting conversation. So, Sebastian, if you could give a quick introduction to who you are to our guests, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my name is Sebastian Avanzini. I am from Denmark. I am 28 years of age, and currently I play professional football in Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia.
Awesome. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I actually don't know too many footballers who play in Malaysia. There's a few Australians there. I think you even have an Australian in your team. But yeah, it's a pretty cool experience. I remember when I was in Singapore one time, I watched a game there, and then the next day went to the Lego Lab in Malaysia. Yeah, I was pretty young then, but yeah, no, it's a really exciting episode, guys. And what we'll do is we'll get straight into some quick fire questions for Sebastian. So, first question, and this is a very open question, but why football?
Okay. Why football? Because my dad's being shot here. Dad is from Italy, so it's if you're a boy, you don't have a choice. You play football.
Yeah, and I'm sure that in Denmark, it's the same there as well.
Yeah, I mean, in Europe it's a little different. In Denmark, obviously, in all of Europe, football is it's the sport. It's you play football, and if you really don't like football, you can play something else. But especially in the South Europe, Spain, Italy, Portugal, all these countries, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, not awesome. Now, this one again is also quite an open question, but do you have a favorite pair of boots all time?
All time? Oh well, I don't have an all-time favorite pair of boots. I think it's a little in different eras of my life. Currently I'm wearing Puma, the future Puma boots, which I really really like. So that's my go-to at this point, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. My co-host and myself, we both have the same boots that we wear. He sent me his old pair, and they are the Magista Obras, and they're my favorite all time, and they're his as well. And for some reason, I think I have 4 pairs of them. They're my favorite boots of all time.
Yeah. Never change something that works, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now the next question is the best holiday destination.
Oh, for me it's I'll have to for 2 different reasons. I really like now, ever since coming here, we are not too far away from Indonesia, so I think Bali's definitely up there. I think as an Australian, you most likely also have visited that place. So, so that's one. The other one would be for me, it's Italy. My family is still in Italy, and the food, everything, like the culture for me is of course, it's like going home, right?
Awesome. Yeah, there's definitely some good destinations there. I mean, it makes it easier when you got family in the locations as well, for sure.
Exactly.
Italy tops it off 100%. Now, you've lived in quite a few locations, I've seen, in terms of around Denmark, and then also, obviously now Malaysia. That's a very different world in Southeast Asia. So what is the best place that you've lived?
100% KL. Where I live right now, as a football player, like you say, you live sometimes like a nomad. You live I've lived multiple places myself. And yeah, some good cities on paper, which has been all right. But when I think about everything, it's definitely KL. Definitely.
Well, yeah, that's awesome. Now, we kind of also already introduced this question, but we didn't say it explicitly. But I can kind of guess that how old you were when you started playing football. But what age did you think you started playing football?
Uh, I think I started my first club when I was like 3, but it's a little different, you know. It's it's like when you're able to walk,
Yeah.
and your dad has seen you. Now he can now he can walk. Now he knows that he has to shoot the ball, get him out there. So I think I was 3 years old.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy. Now also on your LinkedIn profile, I've seen that you've just started a new project on the side, which
Yeah.
you can also introduce, and this ties into this. So, what is your favorite thing to do outside of football?
Oh, yeah. So I think I'm the kind of guy who likes to be busy. I love training. I love playing football. I love being active in general. I love working out. So obviously that has always been the is the main part of my life. But I think as you grow, I've always after I did my schools also on the side of football. So when I was finished with uni, and I felt like I need something to take my mind off football sometimes, else it gets too tunnel visioned. So yeah, recently I embarked on this new venture called Icebox, which is it's portable ice baths. You know, as an athlete, like you're used to cold water recovery with ice baths, and so um, and yeah, in Denmark especially in the West, I guess it's this concept is already very popular. I would say for multiple different reasons, not just the recovery physically, but also the mental recovery. So so yeah, coming here to a very tropical country. I thought, yeah, let's do something fun on the side, and I got a great partner involved in this also. So yeah, so far so good, man.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I remember when I was in Aarhus, we went to, this was in the winter time as well. We went into Aarhus was beautiful. They got the most amazing architecture ever. And you just go into their town kind of, and you just have these high rise buildings which look amazing. And then you've got
Yeah,
the ocean that's just there. And then you just see a bunch of people just going in. And then they have
yeah,
these little saunas in,
exactly.
it's like the barrel. And I
Yeah,
think I even went to Horsens, and you previously played for Horsens, and I saw that
yeah,
they had them there as well. And yeah,
exactly,
it's they go from the cold to the heat back in. And I'm
exactly,
thinking, wow, yeah, it's very cool. And I'm sure in Malaysia it's so humid. Like it's
exactly.
it's probably really nice to go into an ice bath rather than a challenge.
Oh, absolutely. So it's
Yeah,
but it's also a cultural thing. I don't know if it's the Viking era up in Scandinavia with Denmark and
yeah,
but it's true for them. I know right now it's with the whole we live in a time where there's a lot of we are very aware of our health now. It's a lot like we especially after COVID. So now we want to take care of ourselves, and one way, especially the like Finland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, these countries, they've sort of embraced this is by that alternating between first and saunas and ice baths. So yeah, here it's so humid, so it's a new thing, and people need to sort of get started, and there's a lot of education involved in it. But people are genuinely intrigued by it. What is it? And we've seen it. It's not really here, so the people are quite. Some are just scared of it, but it's okay so far.
yeah. That's funny you said that people are scared of it, because last night I was doing it with my dad, and he hadn't done it before, and
Oh,
it was so funny. It was so funny. He was scared, and then when you get into it, it's not too bad.
yeah,
And then I got a freezing cold bottle of water, and he had no idea, and I poured it down his neck, and he screamed out of pain. He was so scared, and I was thinking, is it that bad? It was really funny. But yeah, no, ice baths, definitely a very good tool for athletes, and just I think anyone in general for health
yeah,
all around. Yeah, very cool.
absolutely.
Now, getting into away from the quickfire questions, I want to see a bit more about what it looks like to be in Sebastian's shoes for a day, and I'm talking about an average day, in season, out of season, whatever it is, even if you go through what you've already done today or what you did yesterday, what does it look like for you in an average day?
So usually what I'll do is I'll plan my workouts, my training. So I will be on the field, or most likely on the field. I don't like to do too heavy workouts in the gym and stuff like that. I like to go to the gym, but I like to be very active. I know I'm an athlete, so I do that as early as I can. So this morning it'll be now it's 9:20, but this morning, so 7 a.m. I will go to wherever. So I'll have an organized PT. with me in football, for instance, a coach, and then I can choose what is it I want to work on. It is, in off season, you get to be a little more specific on small details. Maybe you've seen some flaws in your game throughout the season, which is something you feel like I haven't done this for a long time. So I'll do that, do some conditioning. Then now today I'm with you, and then I can start to. There's the media side to it, obviously, and then there's now I have Icebox, so most likely because we're in it, we just started, so there's a lot of meetings, a lot of awareness needs to be built, and yeah, so it's mostly I will work, and then in the evening I will go to the gym, and yeah, that's my day.
Yeah, yeah. It's a typical kind of athlete day I can see. And when you plan your days, are you planning in terms of doing a checklist? Like for myself, every night before I go to bed, I'm saying, this is what I need to do. This is the time slots that I'm doing it. And these are the must-dos every single day. Do you have a similar process where you're planning
Absolutely.
your day? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think for efficiency in general, not just for an athlete, I think a lot of people wake up on a default. So you see a lot of people today, especially we have social media, we have so many distractions. So for me, what works for me is very similar to what you do. I will every Sunday, I will draft my week. What is it I need to do? Of course, on the run, there will come more tasks, something maybe I have to do something that is not so important. But in general, whatever, every day I have a few things that are non-negotiable though. And it's my training. It's non-negotiable. So of course, if there's something extremely important, I can rearrange it. But for instance, what I like to do, my morning, the first thing I have to do is be active. So it's just, I know every day that's how it is. It's been like that for many, many years. And after that, yeah, I will have a plan for now. Let's say it's a meeting. Now it's maybe something specific I need to get done. Maybe it's on the laptop. I don't know. But it's very similar to you. And I think that structure, I think humans, it's a balance. You need to be able to be have the luxury of being spontaneous, but to have that luxury, you need, for me at least, I think it's very important that you organize everything, that you're structured, so you can take the freedom to do it, not just live on default and then whatever. You will only get half the shit done then.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you mentioned the spontaneous thing. My co-host, most spontaneous guy ever. He's in Greece, and then the next day, his team gets 2 days off, flies to the Netherlands, comes back. I don't know how this guy does it. Me personally, I could never do that, but he loves the spontaneousness.
Yeah.
But for me, I love the structure, and then I can see that. I also see that structure that you like there as well, because you said first thing in the morning, you got to move the body, and yeah. I'm very similar with my training. When I don't have team training or it's just an individual off season, whatever, first thing, have to train. It's just it just sets your day up right. You can then focus on the other things. You can, me personally, I'm always doing my LinkedIn stuff. I'm always, posting stuff on there, and similar to what you're doing with Icebox now, it's just, building something. And I think that building something is so, I think for guys, we just love to build things. And when you're building something that's great, you want people to get around it. And I can see that you've got that quality. And
how long have you, if I can ask you, how long have you, I see your LinkedIn, you're very active also there. How long have you been very active on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I think it's around 6 years now. And
6 years.
It's, I think when I first started playing football seriously, and it was just uploading training videos, uploading game videos, connecting with people like yourself. And it's crazy that LinkedIn has been so fundamental for me, because every single team that I've played for in the past 6 years has come from LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
Even my journey, yeah, it's the same as my co-host. I've actually never met my co-host in person. It's literally just through LinkedIn, and it was the same with my original co-host. Yeah, no, it's that all of our listeners, when we talk about LinkedIn, I hope that they listen to this and they know that LinkedIn's where it's at, and quite often the guests that I get on the podcast, exactly like yourself, are from LinkedIn. So I always try and promote the LinkedIn use, because I think it's the best way to connect, because just like, this conversation that we're having now, right? We'll then be able to, network with other people just through this conversation. And it's such an important part of my day. And I mean, I saw it's an important part of your day as well, because that's how we connected.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I'm definitely much newer to this whole, to the LinkedIn platform. So yeah, I was quite when I saw your profile, somebody who's been able to consistently throughout, yeah, I say 6 years. That's amazing, man. Very good, very good job. So, like for you to build, you've built also a very big audience there.
Yeah, 22,000 players, I think, almost.
I see. That's amazing, and that's just through what the consistent work, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just placing every single training session, every single game. And yeah, I mean, ideally, right, this is where for the rest of my years playing football, the opportunities will come to me.
Mm, absolutely. And I mean, that's also another thing we can touch because there's not, maybe not so much for me in LinkedIn. I haven't done that, unfortunately. I've been more, I guess, the traditional football player. But the personal branding when you are an athlete, you're still very, very young. I guess I'm in the mid of my career. Um, and now I've done it more like on the other platforms, whether it's been TikTok, whether it's been Instagram, and I recently embarked on this journey for the very same reasons that you're actually saying. So it's more theory for me, which is really, really cool that you've actually managed to do that. But yeah, it's another thing is like the personal branding today as an athlete. Is you can leverage hugely from it because the generations before that, before me, I'm 28 now. So let's say my seniors, the ones who are maybe retired now, who are like 40 now, they don't have that relationship with social media. So they don't know how this personal branding, what is this? How do we do that? But so it's still quite new. And before you are an athlete, you don't have to be Ronaldo to do that. You just need to, as you have done very, very well, be consistent about it. And there's a lot of opportunity for me, not with the clubs really. I've never had that luxury, I guess, or that privilege. But it's more in terms of now, for instance, Puma, will be backed by them. Other sponsors like Optimum Nutrition, or like they will see you, and that exposure is so important for you as an athlete.
100%, 100%. And my co-host, he has the exact same story now. He's got his own protein company, and he's sponsoring clubs all around the world. It's amazing what he's doing there. And yeah, no, it's really exciting. And that's actually the other reason why I wanted to get you on for an episode was when I saw what you're doing now, business wise. It's very cool because that's what I'm trying to do as well. And you're trying to, as you said, build that personal branding up. And this is bringing me on to the next kind of topic that I wanted to ask you about, which was when you were younger, let's say 19 or even 15, right? What was your day like then? And did it change over time? Because I'm sure that there's been a series of refinement that has been going on for the last 10 years.
Absolutely. So when I was 15, again, Europe, the whole way the upbringing as a football player in Europe is very different from, for instance, what I experienced in Malaysia. I would imagine maybe also in Australia. But when I was 15, my day was, obviously I was still in school. So you train in the morning, you go to school, train in the afternoon. So it's, I guess you have the academies down here, they are collaborating with the schools. So I went to one of the big academies in Denmark, came through the ranks there. And so you have that very rigid schedule every day. And I guess at that time, all I could really comprehend was football. Football, football, football. And it's a blessing and it's a curse. As you grow older, when you get out of school, you realize, okay, now you have to start to play. Okay, now I'm a full-time professional. Now I have to wake up, go to training, and then suddenly you have this gap. Okay, I trained 10 a.m. in the morning. Now I'm finished 11:30. I drive home. What now? Right? So that's why I think as a football player, there's many different ways to do it. And some maybe have chosen some. We've seen in recent times with where there's been gambling, there's a lot of stories for football players. But yeah, like your co-host and yourself, for me, it's I guess that personal development over the years, sort of got me to look. You actually have a life that enables you to grow, like really pursue growth. You're not doing the 9 to 5 job routine. You're finished in the morning. You have all the cards on your hand to really do something with your life and try to take risks and everything. And I guess from an early age, now it's icebox, but it's been other, I guess, ventures before that. And yeah, so that's something that's really changed over the course of, I guess, my life.
Yeah, awesome. And do you think that that's because, now, as you mentioned, right, like footballers, we have so much time. That's something that my first professional contract that I was on, I had to make myself have less time and just devote more time to just being literally like at the training ground. Because I'm like, okay, too much time is sometimes a bad thing. And when you focus, we had a sports psychologist on who was actually with the England national team, and he was talking about how, and similar to what you were saying before, when we spend too much time focusing on football or anything of that sake, it's our energy, mental energy is going there. And just like physical energy, it can be depleted. And that's where purposeful distractions come in very handy. And this is a criteria of mine. Whenever I work with someone on a business level, whether it's the podcast and a co-host, whatever it is, I make sure that they read this book, if they haven't read it already, which is Relentless by Tim Grover. And maybe you know it?
I know it. I've never read it. I've only read the like extracts from it.
Yeah, okay. And essentially, it's talking about how it's Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, all these things. And I believe that as athletes, we typically do have this type of mentality. And I always talk about working smarter and harder, which is actually the sculpted analogy. And it's all about utilizing the time we have and how can we start to use everything around us as a library, right? Icebox for you, although it's separate from football, it's going to help you as a footballer. And this is where, for me, Sculpted, this podcast is helping me with football because I'm connecting with people like yourself. I'm speaking with coaches. I'm learning more. I'm seeing how Sebastian lives his life. I'm seeing all these different things. And this is how I think as athletes, as footballers, we're at a point of privilege, a big point of privilege because we have so much time. And like you mentioned, a 9 to 5, it takes a lot out of you. And a lot of the time, it's not what you want to do.
Exactly.
Footballers, we love playing football. And then the rest of the day, we have free. And this kind of brings me on to the point where I want to ask, over time, you had school, okay, but after school, what was that transition like to having so much time in your day and being paid to play football? What was that kind of like for you?
It's strange because when you're going to school, you have your peers who are still living a very different life. So you grow up, you play football, and you already, when you start, you're getting your teens, and you see now your friends start to get other interests. They will like to stay out late. Maybe they start really. There's a party going on here and there. I have a very strict background with these things. Coming from I guess quite Catholic home, so it's like for me, I was a little late with all of these things, and I had my football, so it didn't really fit into my life. But I saw my peers were like slowly gravitating in another area, like in another direction. So for me, I never really got on that train. So when school was finished, and I suddenly, okay, now I just have training. Now I actually have even more time. Then I was at an age where, see, look, this lifestyle is not really compatible with long nights. So eventually, what happened for me was my peers from when I grew up. I don't, unfortunately, but I'm not seeing my childhood I guess friends anymore because we chose different directions. And my network now, I sit with you and I talk, but all my very close friends are very just like yourself, very ambitious people who are living all around the world, who now who live the same lifestyle. So we're much more aligned, and it makes it easier for me. I don't feel like I'm like there's no FOMO. I'm not missing out on anything, and we are actually just committed to building obviously our careers, our startups, our businesses. It's all about growth in the end, and I was lucky that the transition. I slowly just got new people in my life who were much more aligned with a direction I could see myself going also.
Yeah, awesome. And I think that that's very common for footballers. When you see interviews with ex-professional footballers, I mean, footballers are typically like the cool guys at school, you know?
Yeah,
And then they also don't go to the parties necessarily, and I'm sure there are footballers who go to the parties, but for example,
absolutely.
The ones who probably do the best in football are the ones who never go to the parties, or they try and, have these boundaries in place. And I love your point on what the extent of your friendships are now. I actually have a word that I call allies, and I think it's perfectly summarized with the friendships that I have right now. Just like with my co-host, I've never met him in person, and this was the exact same for many other of my allies before. before I met them in person. So yeah, it's they're people who you can call upon, and they're people who you trust because they're on the same journey as you, and it's that building something. It's something that they have aspirations for, and it's someone who you can call upon and grow with, and that's exactly such an important thing. And I love seeing the reflection how from when you were younger, that natural filtration process happens. And I wanna see how that happened for you. Was this something where you had to experiment? Maybe you went to a few parties and then you realized it doesn't fit with the schedule. Maybe you turned up the training one time late because you slept in. What was that switch for you? Was it
Yeah,
by
I
experiment?
think I think everybody will when you're younger, you will try to experiment at some point, right? Um, I think for me it was it's the FOMO, especially today. Young people, they grow up. It's all about FOMO. They are so afraid of not missing out on, if it's the party, if it's whatever, right? It's always like that. Um, and at some point it just got so big in me, like, what am I missing out on? And you meet in school the Monday, and they went out Friday, they went out Saturday, and you're like, all they talk about is what happened then and that. You come there and you're like, that sounds amazing. That sounds so good. Like the most fun ever. I've never had that amount of fun in my life. Then you start to experiment and okay, I'll try to see that. And you realize, oh, this is, for me at least, I'm not talking on behalf of everybody, but I was like, this is not so fun. Why are we trying so hard to have fun here? And you meet Monday, and still people will talk, oh, we had so much fun. And it's just like, did we? Did we? Really? And I think like that, I just, it was actually a very conscious decision for me. I know for some, their trajectory will just take the nice stuff for me. But I remember I was actually very conscious about it and said, look, wait, I don't have to do this. I don't really need to. And so have in mind, this is maybe like, say, at least a decade ago, I had those, I guess, those questions in my brain. But to this day, I don't have it. If I still have, of course, people are allowed to go out. We are not all the same. And I do like going out to maybe sit and have a good chat over a nice dinner and everything. But the whole, let's say the clubbing scene and everything, no, it's not even because, as you said, first, it's not enough season. I could do it if I wanted to. It's just I don't want to. It's really that simple. I don't have that FOMO. It's a habit. If you keep thinking about it, yeah, what am I missing out on? But if you keep saying, like, you're structuring your life, if you keep saying, no, it's not an option, I'm not going there, you stop thinking about it. Why would you think of something that is not an option?
Yeah, I love that. And I think, as you mentioned, right, it's going to be different for everyone. And I think that I have a very different approach to most. And I've never done anything of that sort, which I've kind of purposely restricted myself. But I don't want to go into that too much because if people listen to this podcast, they already know that. So what I want to see is when you see people doing that, when you're, let's say, 18, 19, what's keeping you to stick with your vision? Because that fear of missing out is massive. And I've had friends who have had that fear of missing out and they've let it take them. Do you think that the thing that is actually keeping you accountable could be something that isn't even happening yet? It's something that you want to become. Do you think that having
absolutely.
this thing that you want to become actually is like a source of accountability to stop you from doing that? And have you had those moments in your life where you've thought, I don't want to do this because of that? Does that happen to you?
Absolutely. I still have it so much to this day. It's that like the vision you talk about, your whole, if you have a vision and you have that when you're 28, when I believe it's a character trait, I will most likely have it when I'm 40. The same goes with you. So when I was as young as I can remember, all the way from my teens, all I wanted was to become a football player. I have made some terrible mistakes also in my football career, but all of it I've always prioritized my vision, and I've sometimes chosen the wrong path, and I've had to learn along the way. Um, but the vision has always been my first priority. And when I'm in doubt, it's the same. What helps me get to that point? Because we will have to decide every day. You have decisions every day, and in that particular setting, when you're a teenager, at some point, yeah, there's this temptation right here, right now. You'll get tempted all the time, especially if you live a life where where you're really pursuing something, maybe you will start to see some results, you'll get some success, and with success comes even more temptations. Um, and I'm not saying something particular, but there could be all sorts of temptations, and that is another test that again triggers that. What am I missing out on? Imagine what that would be so funny. And I've obviously I've felt that, but as you grow older, as you mature, now I feel I'm definitely more grounded than I was when I was 18. But yeah, it's the same thing. I can maybe say it more specific now than I could back then. But I've always had this idea of the man I want to become, and I don't, I don't compromise on that. At least, at least I try really hard not to.
Yeah, for sure. And I like the point where you were talking about with success, it comes a whole load of other temptations, and you didn't explicitly say anything because it also could be good or bad temptations. And what I mean by that is sometimes it could be a temptation like starting something which doesn't align with where you want to go. And this is where I think the iceboxing is very interesting for you because it does align with you. And that's what I was very cautious with my own business endeavors with SCULPTED, is what I talked about before. Everything around me needs to help me with football. How can I make everything around me help me with football? To the average person, they may not think that a podcast helps me with football, but I make it help me with football. And I'm sure that you've adapted that same thing. So when you think about that in your life, have you ever had to start something new or stop something that you've been doing to make sure that you keep going that direction that you want to go?
Absolutely. I think that is, if you are that very, because if you are a visionary, you also have that urge to just, like you said in the beginning, actually start building. Yeah. And sometimes you derail a little from what you're building, so you start building another thing. That's also nice because you gotta get a good idea. Same happens for me. And yes, I have definitely embarked on ventures. I have gotten like being tempted by an idea in the moment, which I just thought, oh, that's amazing, but suddenly lost my sight of the vision. That's why I'm saying I'm trying not to compromise. I'm doing my best. We are just human beings. We will make mistakes, and sometimes we will derail from what we've said. But yeah, goes without saying, for me it's the same. That's one of my biggest still challenges today, not wanting to, because you want to grow so bad. That's why that's what really motivates me, building stuff. So not building too many different things, because in the end you have 24 hours a day. You will sleep some of them, you will have to train some of them, so in the end you have X amount of hours. How do you allocate your time? And that is something we talked about structure before. That is something my structuring really helps me. When you see something like visually and you point it out, why am I doing that? But what's most important, this or this? Well, what's your vision? Is this okay? I go with A, not B and C. That's a very, very easy way to actually sometimes see if what you're doing, is it where I'm going or not? Or is it just because I think right now, I just woke up yesterday and thought that's a great idea? That happens to me also.
Yeah, for sure. And that comes with that awareness you're talking about. And it's a tricky thing because, as we said, sometimes when we have this vision, we just want to do. And when we do, we want to do it well. And it's a tricky one to navigate for sure. And I'd say I'm still working through that now because I don't want to get, we don't want to, we don't want to forget about football. Football is the ultimate reason. So how can we make sure that everything is our library? That's a massive thing. Now, I remember just previously you spoke about your parents and you grew up in a strict Catholic household. I want to see a little bit more about that. And you don't have to go into anything too uncomfortable or anything like that, but I just want to see how your parents were as you grew up, because also you did a lot of moving around, everything like that. I mean, it's like me. I moved to Germany when I was 15 by myself. I think I've got the best parents in the world. Now, it's crazy that they let me do that. So yeah, how was it growing up for you, and what were your parents helping you with football?
So yeah, divorced parents, have an Italian dad, obviously with the more, I guess, principles of how you live your life comes from there. But I have a mom who's she's very, very hardworking, so she became a great example for me growing up. But growing up, it was especially when you live in the more, I say, you live in Germany yourself, in the more, I guess, wealthy Western countries, there's a lot of freedom, especially now, it's more free than ever. Um, and when you come from more traditional households, you don't have that amount of freedom, and that is something I'm very grateful for. You talked about temptations and parties, maybe like it can be everything. Um, and I did not appreciate it when I was younger. I thought, why am I the only one who has rules like this? But to this day, I see the values that, especially coming from now from both my parents. It's I've never to this day I've never missed a training. I'm never late. All of these things. It's and in the end, if you want to do something, if you have a vision, it's you can say it's 10% brains, 10% talent, but it's in the end, it's all about consistency. That's what I realized at this age. And when I think about my parents, it's that is the most important thing that I've taken away from my upbringing. You moved to Germany when you were 15. I moved out when I was 16, I think. Um, and yeah, ever since then, I'm 28 today. So then I've been home sometimes and just visiting for some months if there's during COVID, for instance. But but in the end, it's been like that. They've always encouraged me to um, to really pursue my dreams. And to pursue my dreams, I knew, just like yourself, I had to go out, I had to move out, and not necessarily do what's most comfortable, which is what you want when you're 15. You just want to have fun with your friends. You just want to, yeah. But somehow my parents were really good at, hey, if especially my dad, he was very like, you can be a doctor, you can be a football player, you can be whatever you want, but the minute you choose, and he said that, but I know he it's football for you. But he said the minute you choose, there's no bargaining, there's no negotiations. There are things you have to do. You have to train, you have to sleep, you have to wake up, you have to eat properly. You cannot go out late. So all of these things, I was very fortunate to live when I see now my also players who are more talented than me who never made a career for themselves. The thing that really separated me from them, because in Europe, you know that in Germany, competition is outrageous. It's really, really, really difficult to come through that 0.1% hole, because everybody, the mass is so big and so many great players. But what separated me from the others was definitely that I I could not bargain on these small things. It was my dad's principles took me a long way, and now they're my principles, and I still live to them. But yeah, to this day.
Yeah. Awesome. I find it so interesting hearing different stories on different people, for example, because someone else in your shoes may have reacted the complete opposite. That fear of missing out and the restriction that your dad may have put on you, for other people, they just want to rebel. They want to do the complete opposite.
Yeah.
In another situation, like for me, for example, my parents put no restrictions on me. I put all the restrictions on myself, and my parents are like, no, take the restrictions off. And it's like the complete opposite. And it's so interesting hearing how in the same situation, put a different person in that situation, every time it's going to be a different reaction.
Absolutely.
Honestly, it's a very interesting thing to hear from different people. But on top of that, talking about improvement and how you improve. Now, for me, improvement's massive. Again, the sculpted analogy, when we think about improvement, I talk about refinement. And if you've got a big rock in front of you and you're chiseling away, every single chisel is a purposeful refinement. And that's the analogy that I like to use. So when you try and improve at anything, what are you aiming for? Are you aiming for that ultimate vision? Do you always thinking, okay, I'm doing this for the ultimate vision, or maybe I'm doing this for another reason? What does improvement actually look like to you?
I live by this principle is very massive for me. And it's something when I speak to, still if I'm doing coaching, if I'm helping, whether it's football players, it's entrepreneurs, I say it all the time. I call it 6 out of 10. As a football player, you're a goalkeeper. Just use it in your specific situation. If I were to come and watch you play and you had a 10 out of 10 game, which means all your kicking out, your passes and everything, and you had a 10 out of 10 game, 10 out of 10 game, I would be very worried for you. Why? Because you've taken maybe a massive risk here and there, and it turned out well. what for me is very, very important in what I do. It's not about that I'm the greatest every day. I will do my best, but what my focus is slightly different. I always focus on showing up and always delivering 6 out of 10. That consistency in life is what really makes the difference. Of course, you want to, if you can raise it to 7 out of 10 every time, please. But it's more the concept. And if you hit an 8 or 9 out of 10, especially my season this year, I've had a very, very good personal season. Play every game, I play every minute. And is it because I don't have a single 9 or 10 out of 10 performance? I don't. It's not what's important. What's important when you want to grow is that you always go out and make sure that you can perform consistently. Then you can raise your bar. You don't raise your bar by always aiming for, see how often you can hit 10 out of 10. Start here, always deliver this, and then move the needle a little. So you're a little bit better than last year. And that's how you raise your level. You want to judge somebody, not just a football player, but a person. How bad is that person at that person's worst? That's how at least I see it.
Yeah. No, it's a very, very good analogy, because what that allows you to do, and what you said, right, is to get those small incremental improvements. Because let's say most people can do it 6 out of 10. Most people can, but everyone is aiming for a 10 out of 10, and to a degree, so they should be. But being okay with the 6 out of 10 is also a strategic improvement to get you closer to the 10 out of 10. Something that I talk about a lot is the purposeful delusion. And not that this is explicitly purposeful delusion. This is more purposeful awareness, I think. And this is something that's achievable for pretty much everyone, to get a 6 out of 10. Or maybe you start at a 4 out of 10, whatever that looks like. Then improving that, whether it's a 4.2 out of 10, then working that up, that 2%, that 0.2% that you add each time or each year eventually gets you ahead of the others. And that's where it's a very measurable thing, because as you mentioned, right, you come see me, 10 out of 10, next week 2 out of 10, next week 4 out of 10. That inconsistency, it doesn't allow you to have a full picture of me. And I think that this is something that happens as you mature. You probably found this out as you've played more football games, the more and more experience you've had, you've probably come to this realization a bit more. And I may have the awareness for this, but I still wouldn't say that I'm at the level that you might be, because I'm still trying to, get my 6 out of 10. So it comes through a lot of development and a lot of awareness, which is a very good point.
I think also, sorry if I can interrupt one second. It's also because I think a lot of people, when I say focus on 6 out of 10, in that me saying that, I'm also saying there are some specific things you should focus on and some things you should not. And I'm not talking about that scale. I'm talking about what you can control.
Yeah.
When I say that, whether you're a football player or you're a content creator or you are in school, it's very simple. There's some things you can always control, and that is your attitude. Yeah. And your attitude is big. So even if you maybe you're not having the best game, but if you still carry yourself, sometimes, the frame is more important than the picture sometimes. Don't have a bad attitude. Don't like this with your teammates or start to get emotional. If you can control that, and it's your behavior, because you might feel like inside you are filming for some reason, but you can control that. That's your behavior. You can always control your behavior. So controlling your behavior and your attitude is always what I say to people. No matter what you do, control that. Put your focus on that, because you've played football for your whole life also. You are a good football player. It's not like you're going to wake up tomorrow and then suddenly you forgot how to catch a ball. It's not like that. So you just accept that you're a good goalkeeper. Instead, focus for you, your attitude and your behavior. Have a good body language. All these things, try to be positive. Do these things. Do these good things for you. If you focus on that, you make sure you get that right. That's the first step to always ensure that you will have a quite decent performance.
Sebastian, that was such a good point. And you said it so well. Like it was very good. On adding to that, it made me realize about something that I have in my own life, which I never really gave a name to it. but I didn't give a name to the process, but I gave names to it, to the 6 out of 10 model, you could say. And what I have is my journal, which that hopefully a few of the listeners actually use. It's the 2024 journal for Sculpted, and it's based on what the app will be. And essentially, I categorize my days in a maintenance day, a rest or revival day, or a sculpting day. And I have essentially the app will be an algorithm where it gives you a score on what that day looks like. But going for a bare minimum day, if I'm just able to complete my journal, that gets me to a sculpting score, because what I'm doing is I'm making my day better right now, but for tomorrow. And what I say for that is if I'm able to complete my journal, then that's a bare minimum of sculpting score. And a maintenance day is, okay, maybe I've done my non-negotiables, but I didn't do my journal. That means that tomorrow is going to suffer. The bare minimum is for me to complete my journal. Yeah. And then, I have one rest day every week, but I try and get a sculpting score above 80% every single day. If I can get that looks like me doing my non-negotiables, my habits, all things like that. I don't even have to do all of them, but if I'm able to reflect on it and say, okay, I didn't do this today, but tomorrow I'm going to work on it to make sure I do. Every time I do that, I get myself to a sculpting score. And I really like the point that you made about how if you can just focus on your body language, that will probably get you to a 6 out of 10. Anything above that, that means you had a good game. You maybe made 90% pass completion. Exactly. And that may get you to an 8 out of 10. But if you can just focus on those controllables, which is a very important thing for footballers, because there's a lot of things that are outside our control in a football game. We spoke about this with another guest called John Johnson, who was another sports psychologist. Not explicitly sports psychologist, but he was himself a mental skills coach. And talking about the controllables, right? As you mentioned, you can control these things. And that, just by focusing on the controllables, if you do that well, you'll get a 6 out of 10 every game.
It's like everything else when you're, what's the foundation of your performance? And I always say it's not that I'm a good football player. Of course, when you go to whatever you do, in the beginning, the progress will be quite, I say, exponential. But when you play football your whole life, everybody can run. Everybody's quite strong. Everybody's technically quite good, right? So suddenly, like now, the difference is very, very small. I had a good chat with a coach. He's now the current national team coach of Denmark, actually. He said he had a great point where he said, if you guys knew that from Lionel Messi to some of the, let's say, the worst professional football players in the world, there will only be around 10% difference. And I'm like, wait, what? But it's very, very, it's very true, because we think when we watch YouTube, we want to do the skills, we want to do this. And yes, I love watching Neymar. I'm never going to talk bad about watching a player like him. And for him to be at that level, it's amazing. But for me, and also it depends on in football, on your position on the field. But in general, what's really, really sets, I guess, the best in football apart is that they can maintain a consistency in their performances. And maybe it's a little different from for everybody, but the foundation of your performance should always be what you can control. And like I said, that's your attitude. It starts there. It starts with your attitude. How do you take criticism? That's one thing I always ask people, that how do you take criticism? When's the last time you got criticized? How did you react? And I'm not saying how you felt, because you might, like, if I get criticized, I feel like shit. Oh shit, I don't like that. But it's not about if I react with how I feel. Yeah, sure. Then you'll all see it. Instead, it's the same. If I sit here and I start laughing, like, ha ha ha, it's hard for me to be angry if I'm smiling and I'm laughing. You can control your behavior. So don't always go with what you feel. For instance, with getting criticized. No, I have to focus on my attitude and my behavior. That's the first step. From there, you can build upon. Then you can start thinking, I have to do more, I have to be more daring, or maybe less daring in my decisions or whatever. Then we can talk about the game after, or the specific field you're operating within. But it starts with your attitude.
Yeah. It's that foundation for sure. And that can get you just to a 6 out of 10, which is, that's great, because, if you can get to a 6 out of 10 every week, then you can start to improve, refine.
Yeah.
And that 6 out of 10 may become an 8 out of 10. And maybe even Ronaldo or Messi, they're maybe only getting 9 out of 10s, maybe even 8 out of 10s most of the time. So as you mentioned, that small difference is between Messi and the worst professional footballer. That's at 10%. That is only, the difference between an 8 out of 10 every game and a 7 out of 10. They're just getting the 8 out of 10 every week. And those are the small things. And
Absolutely.
definitely what you said there puts it in perspective for a lot of people, I think. And yeah, really, really good point. Now, obviously being aware of the time, we're towards the end of the episode now. I want to go through the last question for you, which is, what are 3 ways that you sculpt yourself on a daily basis? Now, I mean, we've already kind of, in the first kind of question, we kind of went through a few things, but are there 3 things? Now, you mentioned your non-negotiables as well. Maybe these are 3 ways that you sculpt yourself. What would those 3 things that you do every single day be?
So one thing is obviously the training. Training is massive for me. I think it's you said like it's like programming yourself, wiring your brain for a great day. That is important for me. Another thing, and that is just me, and it doesn't now. It's not like I want to bring religion into it, but for me, it's my religion. Other will be spiritual in their own way, and it's perfect. For me, it's very important that I get to do my prayers. That is also keeps me grounded. It's very, very important that it keeps you grounded. Can be practicing gratitude. That is another thing that is quite important to me, and something I have as a non-negotiable. So yeah, that's also very, very important. And then those are by far the 2 most important ones. I would say my training and my daily prayers, because I know if I do that, I already have the momentum to have a great day.
Yeah, awesome. That religion is a topic that I speak about quite often in this podcast. So yeah, it's also quite a big part of my day as well. And I like the fact that you're aware of what your things are that help you get better every single day. There's I'm sure some people who listen to this podcast who may not even have 3 things that they, they're non-negotiables. They may not have these 3 things that they do every single day, which help them get better. And it's the first step to getting better is what you said, like the consistency part. If you're able to do 3 things every single day, maybe that gets to a 6 out of 10 just for your day. And if they are non-negotiables, I mean, for anyone who doesn't know what the word non-negotiable is, and it sounds silly, but I didn't know what non-negotiable meant like a few years ago. I was thinking, what does a non-negotiable mean? It sounds self-explanatory, but doing it every single day, there's no negotiations. You must do it. Maybe
you can come home super drunk 5 a.m. in the morning. It's true, but and of course I've also been in those situations, but I still have to train the day after, even though I really don't want to. And I still have to do my press. That's just the how it looks. And yeah, you might not be as productive as you would have been else. But you can still, at the end of the day, when you go to bed, you can still, now you have your journaling. You can still say, look, I didn't do a 10 out of 10 today. I was not in condition to do a 10 out of 10, but I still did my 6 out of 10. And you know what? In the end, it's also one thing, like last thing, just about that. It's also about you build your own narrative about yourself. So many people, they will show up to work 9 to 5, and they'll not be late. They'll do it every day. And one thing that is very important for me to state is when you keep that same accountability for yourself, and that starts with having some non-negotiables. When you start to have that accountability, and you actually, I can't let myself down on these things. It's very important. It's more important than anything that I keep myself accountable to those things I say I'm going to do to myself. Because in the end, and you can say, just one day, I don't do it. Sure, you can do that. But that narrative you're building around yourself internally is even more important. And what kind of narrative is that if you can compromise every now and then, here and there? Well, that's also, I think, how you do those small things is how you're going to do the big things also in the end. That's at least how I live by it. And I think that's how you build a very strong narrative about who you are and who you want to be in the future.
Yeah, 100%. I love that point, because what I talk about is aligning your words with your actions. I talk about how if I tell someone to do something, I've done it before, right? And if I tell someone to do something that I haven't done, then they don't need to do it because who am I to say that they should do it?
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
whatever it is, aligning your words with your actions is a very important thing. And yeah, those things that, you know, that narrative, how do you perceive yourself is, you know, I think what you mentioned there, the small things that you may, you know, take a hit on. If it's, oh, okay, I'll just do it today. And, you know, even though I never wanted to do it. If I did it today, it's just one day. But as you said, take that to a bigger thing. Maybe it's, oh, I skipped training once. It's just one day. But if you keep on skipping a day, then that narrative that you built for yourself, you're going to dip that into so many other things. And I actually have people may think it's narcissistic, and honestly, to a degree it is. I always envision that there's a film crew following me around. And I actually make a bit of a joke about it on LinkedIn. I say that I have a Netflix series and people are just watching me 24/7. And I make a little post where I have like the Netflix thing in the top left corner. It's like my story. I call it The Architect. And I'm always thinking about, okay, there's someone watching me. I've got to make the best decision right now. And that source of accountability, I think is kind of what you're talking about there as well.
Exactly. It's funny. It's a fun analogy, especially today, because so many cameras and everything following us around. I like it. It works. It's very legit. I like the thought process behind it. You should definitely. A lot of people could, I think, seeing it like that, would definitely live their lives differently if they really felt like that.
100%. Yeah. Well, Sebastian, what an episode. I really appreciate you know, you hopping on today. It was very, very awesome, and I hope that our listeners got to take some notes there. I think the biggest thing that we can take away is that 6 out of 10. It was such a great point, and I'm gonna have to get editing because we've definitely got a few clips to put up. So there's some really awesome things in there for sure. So Sebastian, again, thank you so much for today, and yeah, it was amazing.
Big pleasure to be here, and it's a great experience. So very, very looking forward to see what we get out of it.